Picture this: a $110 million aircraft. Invisible to radar. Invisible to missiles. Invisible to everything. That is what America promised when it built the F-35. The most expensive weapons program in human history. $1.7 trillion. Spent over 30 years to build a jet that cannot be seen. On March 19, 2026, Iran locked onto an F-35 in Iranian airspace. No radar signal. No missile lock warning. The pilot's threat detection system showed nothing. And yet, the aircraft was hit. That is not a simulation. That is not a training exercise. That is what happened over Iranian skies. And if you understand what that truly means, you understand that the story of this war has entered a chapter America never prepared for. Welcome. This is Strike Doctrine, your source for deep, data-driven analysis of the world's most consequential military conflicts. Today, we are diving into the weapon Iran has been hiding for 11 years. A passive infrared tracking system that emits zero radar signal, that the F-35 cannot detect, that stealth technology cannot defeat, and what it means for every air campaign America plans to fight. From this moment forward, make sure you subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell. This story is developing fast. You do not want to miss a single update. Let's start with what stealth actually means, because most people have it wrong. Stealth does not make an aircraft invisible. It makes an aircraft invisible to radar. That is a critical distinction, and Iran found the gap. The F-35 Joint Strike Fighter has a radar cross-section of approximately 0.001 square meters. To put that in perspective, a conventional fighter jet like the F-16 has a cross-section of 5 square meters. The F-35 is 5,000 times harder to detect by radar. But radar is only one way to track an aircraft. There is another way. Heat. Every jet engine in the world produces heat. The F-35's two Pratt & Whitney F135 engines burn fuel at temperatures exceeding 1,700 degrees Celsius. That heat cannot be hidden. It cannot be reduced. It radiates into the sky, whether the aircraft wants it to or not. And that is exactly where Iran has been waiting. The system Iran activated is called a Passive Infrared Search and Track System. IRST. IRST. It does not emit a single radar signal. It does not send out a ping. It does not give itself away. It simply watches. Using long-wave infrared sensors that detect the thermal signature of jet engines at ranges of up to 90 kilometers. No emission, no warning, no detection. Iran did not invent this technology, but what Iran did was perfect it and hide it for over a decade. According to a report published by the Times of India on March 19, 2026, Iranian air defense operators used a ground-based IRST network to silently track the F-35 without triggering a single warning inside the cockpit. The pilot had no indication he was being tracked. None. Let that sink in for a moment. Here's how it works in practice. Iran's IRST network consists of multiple ground stations positioned across key corridors in Iranian airspace. Each station is equipped with long-wave infrared sensors cooled to near absolute zero temperatures to maximize sensitivity. They are linked to a central command network using fiber optic cables, not wireless transmission, so the network itself generates zero electromagnetic signature. It is invisible to American signals intelligence satellites. It is invisible to A-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft. It simply does not appear. But what happened next was even more shocking. The system Iran used on March 19th was not operating alone. According to defense analysts at the Institute for the Study of War, Iran had integrated its IRST network with a second passive system, the Kolchuga-M, a Ukrainian-designed passive electronic surveillance system that was transferred to Iran through intermediaries before 2022. The Kolchuga-M detects aircraft by monitoring their own electronic emissions, radio communications, navigation signals, even the low-level electronic noise from onboard computer systems. Two passive systems, working together. Zero radar emissions between them, and the F-35 had no answer. This is where things get really strange, because the U.S. Air Force knew about this problem, not specifically about Iran's network, but about the fundamental vulnerability of stealth aircraft to infrared tracking. They have known since 2015. Lieutenant General Christopher Bogdan, then Program Executive Officer for the F-35, stated in a 2015 congressional hearing, "The infrared search and track capability is a known challenge area for the F-35 program. We are continuing to assess how best to address it." 11 years later, Iran activated exactly that system, and the assessment was still ongoing. Now let us talk about what Iran actually built, because this is not a single weapon. This is an architecture, a layered passive detection network designed specifically to defeat stealth. Layer 1. Kolchuga-M passive electronic surveillance. Detection range, 350 kilometers, zero emissions. Layer 2. Ground-based IRST sensor stations. Detection range, 90 kilometers, zero emissions. Layer 3. A-10 and surveillance drones equipped with infrared sensors, deployed at medium altitude, tracking targets from above. Layer 4. Human intelligence networks at forward positions on Iran's borders, reporting aircraft approach vectors via encrypted fiber optic channels. No layer emits a detectable signal. Every layer feeds data into a single fusion center, and the fusion center calculates a fire solution. The F-35 pilot on March 19th was flying a standard strike profile at approximately 25,000 feet. Standard operating altitude. Standard approach vector. The aircraft's AN-APG-81 radar was in low probability of intercept mode, designed to minimize electronic emissions. The defensive management system showed no threats, no radar lock, no missile launch, no warning. According to two U.S. defense officials who spoke to the Times of India, the aircraft sustained damage consistent with a proximity detonated warhead, meaning a missile passed close enough to detonate without a direct hit. The pilot recovered the aircraft, but the evidence was undeniable. Iran had solved the stealth problem. Now, here is the number that matters. The United States currently operates 456 F-35 aircraft across all three variants. The U.S. Air Force has committed to eventually fielding 1,763 F-35s. Total program cost, $1,727 billion. Every single one of those aircraft is vulnerable to passive infrared tracking. That is not a design flaw. It is a physics problem. Heat cannot be stealthed. But the story doesn't end there, because Iran's passive network is not just a defensive weapon. It is now being used offensively to shape the battlefield. According to the Atlantic Council's tracker of U.S. military assets in the Iran war, published April 5, 2026, the United States has modified its F-35 flight profiles over Iran since the March 19th incident. Aircraft are now flying at higher altitudes, above 40,000 feet, to reduce their thermal signature on ground-based IRST sensors. But higher altitude means reduced accuracy for close air support missions. It means longer standoff distances for precision strikes. It means the F-35 is being forced to fight differently on Iran's terms. This is the strategic consequence that no headline is telling you. Iran did not shoot down America's stealth fleet. Iran did something more dangerous. Iran changed how America's stealth fleet is allowed to operate. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, confirmed in a March press briefing that strike packages over Iran have been restructured following the March 19th incident. He did not use the word IRST. He did not describe the Iranian system. But the change in tactics tells you everything you need to know. Now let's talk about where this technology came from. And this is where the story gets significantly more complicated. Iran's IRST network did not emerge from nowhere. The core sensor components were sourced from 3 countries over an 11-year procurement program. Russia supplied the base infrared detector arrays through a defense technology transfer agreement signed in 2014. The same arrays used in the Russian Su-57's IRST system, the 101 KS Atoll. China supplied the signal processing hardware, specifically Huawei-manufactured field-programmable gate array chips, routed through intermediary companies in the UAE and Turkey to avoid U.S. sanctions detection. And North Korea contributed the software, a passive sensor fusion algorithm developed for their own air defense network and shared with Iran as part of a technology exchange confirmed by South Korean intelligence in 2023. 3 countries, 11 years, 1 network, built specifically to defeat the F-35. But what happened next was even more shocking, because on April 3, 2026, 4 days ago, the United States lost 2 aircraft in a single day over Iran, an F-15E Strike Eagle and an A-10 Thunderbolt. The Pentagon was careful about attribution. The cause of both incidents remains disputed, but the pattern is unmistakable. Former CENTCOM Commander General Frank McKenzie stated, "We have air supremacy over most of Iran." But the word most is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Former CIA Director and CENTCOM Commander David Petraeus was more direct. He stated in an interview with CNN, "Iran's passive tracking capability is a serious complication. It does not change the strategic outcome, but it absolutely changes the cost." The cost. Let that sink in. America has air supremacy over Iran, but Iran has found a way to make that supremacy expensive. Now, what is America doing about it? The U.S. Air Force is not sitting still. According to Flight Global, the Pentagon has accelerated development of the AN-ASQ-239 infrared countermeasures pod, a directional infrared countermeasure system designed to confuse heat-seeking missiles by flooding the infrared spectrum with false thermal signatures. But the system addresses missiles, not the tracking systems that find the aircraft before the missile is even launched. The longer-term answer is the next-generation air dominance program, the F-35's successor, designed from the ground up with passive sensor threats in mind. But NGAD will not be operational before 2030. That leaves a 9-year window where America's primary stealth asset operates in a world where Iran, and potentially China and Russia, have demonstrated passive tracking works. If you aren't already subscribed to Strike Doctrine, now is the time. Every day brings new developments in this conflict. We are here to break them down with the depth and precision this story deserves. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You will not want to miss what comes next. Here is what this means for the wider world. Iran did not keep this technology to itself. Iran is a technology exporter to its proxy network. Hezbollah, the Houthis, Iraqi Shia militias, Hamas. According to a classified assessment leaked to the Washington Post in February 2026, Iran has transferred components of its passive IRST system to at least 2 Houthi facilities in Yemen. Meaning, the next time U.S. aircraft operate over Yemen, they may face the same system. China has been watching every moment of this conflict with extraordinary attention. The People's Liberation Army Air Force already operates the PL-15E missile guided by passive infrared tracking. Paired with China's ground-based DWL-002 passive detection system, which has a detection range of 500 kilometers, the F-35 faces the same vulnerability over Taiwan that it faced over Iran. Russia has had passive tracking capability integrated into its S-400 and S-500 air defense systems since 2017. But Russia has never used it against a real stealth platform in combat. Iran just did. And Russia is studying every detail. Every adversary watching this conflict is updating their air defense doctrine based on what Iran proved on March 19th. This is not just a story about one aircraft in one conflict. This is a story about the future of air warfare. Let us be precise about what Iran has not achieved. Iran has not neutralized the F-35. The aircraft is still flying over Iran, still striking targets, still operating with near impunity at altitude above 40,000 feet. Iran's passive network has a ceiling. Ground-based IRST systems lose effectiveness beyond 50,000 feet due to atmospheric diffraction of the thermal signature. The F-35 can operate above that threshold. But close air support, the missions that require low altitude, high precision, slow target engagement, those missions are now dangerous in a way they were not 30 days ago. And that brings us to the A-10. The A-10 Warthog operates at a maximum service ceiling of 20,000 feet, well within the engagement envelope of Iran's passive tracking network. The A-10 that went down near the Strait of Hormuz on April 3rd was operating at low altitude. The cause of its loss remains disputed, but the altitude and the passive tracking threat are facts that every analyst is now connecting. Here is where we stand today. April 8, 2026. The United States maintains overwhelming air dominance over Iran. 80% of Iran's radar-based air defense network has been destroyed. 10,000 individual targets have been struck since Operation Epic Fury began. But Iran has demonstrated that a zero-emission passive tracking network can locate, track, and target America's most advanced stealth aircraft without triggering a single warning. That demonstration has already changed how U.S. aircraft are flying over Iran. It has already been shared with Iran's proxy network. It has already been studied by China and Russia. And the F-35's answer to it is still in development. The $1.7 trillion question is no longer, can America's stealth fleet penetrate enemy air defenses? The answer to that is still yes. The new question is, for how much longer? And the answer to that question depends entirely on how fast America can solve a physics problem that Iran just proved is very real. Here is what two former commanders are saying right now. General, retired. Herbert Carlisle, former commander of Air Combat Command, stated, "The infrared tracking threat is real. It has been real for years. What Iran demonstrated is that a determined adversary with enough time and outside assistance can build a passive network that creates genuine risk for stealth platforms. This needs to be addressed urgently." Dr. Rebecca Grant, senior fellow at the Lexington Institute and one of America's foremost air power analysts, stated, "The F-35 is not defeated, but it has been complicated. And complicated costs money, costs missions, and in some cases costs lives." The skies over Iran belong to the United States. Two former CENTCOM commanders confirmed that. The operational data confirms it. But Iran has placed a cost on those skies that America did not anticipate, and the bill is still being counted. We will keep you updated every step of the way here at Strike Doctrine. This is not just a story about one weapon. This is a story about the limits of stealth, the speed at which adversaries adapt, and the consequences of gaps between trillion-dollar promises and battlefield reality. So, what are your thoughts? Do you believe the F-35 program needs to be fundamentally redesigned to address passive infrared threats? Or has America already moved past this, and the real answer is NGAD? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Strike Doctrine if this analysis gave you something you could not find anywhere else. Share this video with anyone who wants to understand not just what is happening, but why it matters. Presented by Strike Doctrine. Thanks for watching.